This is the source. This is what you've all been fighting over.
Hold on. Back it up for a sec. Let me get this straight. So, David Tennant plays the father of his wife in this story? And his wife plays his daughter. And his wife is the daughter of Peter Davison, which makes Peter Davison and David Tennant father and son-in-law? Excuse me for a moment. Cue the titles. Hello Whovians and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review The Doctor's Daughter, starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. The Doctor's Daughter, well, this is quite a weird episode now when you look at it in retrospect, because obviously Georgia Moffat, or Georgia Tennant, plays Jenny, who is the Doctor's daughter in this story. But it transpired that after this story aired, it was revealed about a year or so later that David Tennant and Georgia Moffat had been dating. And then they actually got married in 2011. So it makes watching this episode on reflection kind of strange in a way. But not only that, it turns out she is also the daughter of Peter Davison. So which makes Peter Davison David Tennant's father-in-law. Weird, right? But if we put that to one side and judge the story on its own merits, then hopefully we'll find something good. But anyway, let's progress on to the plot. Just after finally defeating the Sontarans on modern-day Earth, the Doctor's TARDIS takes the Doctor, Donna and Martha on an unexpected trip to the barren planet Messaline. Arriving right in the middle of a war between the humans and the Hath, the Doctor meets someone he thought he never would, his daughter. Or his wife. Can the Doctor accept this clone as his offspring, and can he stop the war before it all ends in massacre on both sides? Okay, so the Doctor's Daughter. Well, we've already talked about the kind of behind-the-scenes things about the story, but the story itself, I don't think the Doctor's Daughter is quite as good as I remembered it to be. When I was a kid, I used to love this one. I used to really, really like it. On reflection, it's just not as good as I remember. It is good. I think it's a good story, but it has quite a few problems. I think the story is decent. I mean, it's a fairly, it's a basic story. It's easy enough to follow. You've got, a civil war going on between the humans and the Hath. And the story is very much a father-daughter story, as you would imagine. The Doctor is trying to teach Jenny the better ways, and the fact that there's always a choice rather than just killing everything. So in terms of moral standpoints, there's a lot of interesting drama here. The Hath are an interesting race of creatures. They're like these fish sort of men creatures. They have these sort of little green tanks that they use to kind of breathe and make sort of water air bubbles. I mean, I think the Hath are actually quite an inspired design, really. They really are quite good. And I think the issue is that the episode kind of misleads us into thinking we're going to learn more about the Hath, in which we don't. We don't get to find out much about them, other than that they're kind of fish-looking things. Because at the beginning, the Doctor and Donna are separated from Martha, and then Martha veers off and goes to the Hath base, and she basically gets a view of the underground tunnel and everything, but she doesn't really find out much about them as a species. It just would have been nice to know more about them as a species. So yeah, I suppose they're okay, but and the design is great. They're, like I said, an inspired design, but they don't get to do much other than fight. And I do quite like the message of the story about sort of peace, and the Doctor sets up the foundations of a new society, but we'll go into that in just a sec. As for the villain, General Cobb, I kind of feel like he's wasted. Until the very end of the story, he doesn't really do that much, and he's just, I don't know, sort of just generic colonel villain. He doesn't really stand out to me, to be honest. Like, the actor is fine. I think his performance is fine, but just it's not a character that I would say goes down as one of the best Doctor Who villains ever. And another issue I have with the story is Martha. Not Martha herself, but just the fact that Martha's in it. Why the hell is Martha even in this story? She doesn't do anything. She goes off with the Hath, and then we don't really see her too much. She's not really involved too much in the action. I know it's supposed to be a look into the Hath's side of the story, but we didn't need Martha to be separated from the Doctor and Donald for such a long time, and then she only rejoins them at the very end. Like, it would have been nice for Martha to rejoin them a bit sooner in the story. So I think, to be honest, having Martha in it was just totally pointless. I mean, I love Martha as a character. She's amazing, but she doesn't need to be here. It's pointless. I love the interactions with the Doctor and Jenny, even though it's weird now because in real life they are husband and wife. But the characters, the Doctor has to go into the Time War again, and sort of it brings it all back to him. It kind of Jenny is a reminder of Gallifrey and how the Time Lords were when the Time War was going on. You know, just the soldier, you know, killing everything, and almost the Doctor does see a bit of himself in her, because the thing is with Jenny, she's created from a tissue sample of the Doctor's DNA. She's not biologically created. She's genetically created. So it's not like the Doctor had sex with anyone. You know, literally, there's no mother. Jenny is just a clone soldier, and that's how they kind of produce themselves and how they're fighting this war. I do like the relationship. It's a nice relationship with the Doctor and Jenny, and it's well done. And I think it would have been nice to see her continue in the show with the Doctor if he was to travel with his own daughter, and how he would sort of become a father. And actually, he references the fact that he was a father in a previous life. I think the performances are very good. I like also Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. Donna is great in this one. She actually contributes quite a lot, because she works out that the war has been going on for only 7 days, and the date is all kind of mixed up, and everybody else's perception of how long the war has been going on is really different, which I find kind of interesting. Like I said, I like Freema Agyeman as Martha, but she doesn't need to be here. And David Tennant as the Doctor is very good, and like I said, he gives a very good performance, because at first he doesn't really want anything to do with Jenny, because he just sees her as kind of this soldier and everything, and then I think Donna and Jenny managed to convince him that Jenny is worth saving, and she is worth changing. You know, he encourages her constantly to do the right thing and not kill. And there is a moment when she does decide not to kill Cobb, and she's you know, and he's proud of her. He's proud of her. It's a lovely moment. And it's also fair to say that Jenny kicks real arse, and she's very good at acrobatics as well, because she flips over the lasers, which is quite impressive, to be honest. As for my biggest complaint with the story, for me, it's the ending. In terms of the actual climax of the story, when Jenny dies, that's a very powerful moment, and to be honest, that was a really great way to end it, because, you know, through Jenny's death, that was the moment when the Doctor, you know, decided to prove to Cobb why killing was wrong, and why he said to him earlier, you know, you're talking about genocide, this is not the way. And I just like the fact that the Doctor instigates world peace, and then he smashes the source on the floor, and the humans have to now coexist. And it's all because of Jenny, and it's all because of her sacrifice, because she saved the Doctor at the end. And the Doctor, once again, has to go through more and more loss. This time he did it, and it built a future for Messaline, the planet. And I think it's a very powerful ending. But for me, what ruins it is when Jenny comes back to life. I just don't get that. Okay, she's got parts of his DNA, so there's obviously a bit of Time Lord in her, and there's a bit of regeneration energy that comes out. So she comes back to life, but she doesn't fully regenerate. And then she just flies off in the shuttle at the end. Obviously, Russell was trying to set up for a spin-off on screen that never happened, but I just find this disappointing, because it, for me, contradicts the ending that we just saw, with the Doctor using her death to signify that he would never do the same as what Cobb did, and that he would, you know, and that he instigated, you know, world peace. And Jenny was the reason was the moment when the Doctor had had enough, and he'd said, no, this is what you have to do now. Enough fighting. It was Jenny's death that ended the fighting, and the Doctor stood up to Cobb and said, I never would shoot the gun. And, you know, this is the foundation of your new society. You stand together as human and hat. I understand why they brought her back, but it just felt like a bit of a cop-out, to be honest. And, I don't know, I just never really sat comfortably with that ending. I do quite like Morrigold's soundtrack, and I think the look of the story is great. The planet looks really, really good. There's a lot more. We see sort of like these underground sets, like the humans are hiding out in this theatre, and the Hath are hiding out on the other side of this sort of colony, and then when Martha goes onto the surface with the other Hath who saves her life from the quicksand, it's quite a dark sort of looking planet. It does look very apocalyptic. So I think the look of the story and the feel of it is really, really good. And as for performances, I forgot to mention Georgia Moffat. Well, I guess I have to call her Georgia Tennant now. Georgia Tennant as Jenny. I think she's very good, and she's very charming. And even though she is a genetically engineered soldier, she does have thought, she does have feeling, and she does have emotion, and she does really bond with the Doctor, and she does care. So yeah, the Doctor's Daughter, I think it's a mixed bag. I think, to be honest, I don't know whether this is my least favourite of the season, but I still enjoyed it, and I still think there's some good comedy in there as well, especially with the little toy mouse that the Doctor has, and some of Donna's lines are quite funny as well. I won't spoil them, but they are funny. As for a rating for this story, I'm kind of stuck with it. I'm not quite sure how I'd sit it, but I think I'd probably give this story, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. It's a very low 8 out of 10, but I can't give it any more than that. So anyway, that's my review of The Doctor's Daughter. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned next time when I review The Unicorn and the Wasp. So until then, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Bye for now.